Hey guys, welcome back to Road Reg. So on today's video, we're going to be getting my good buddy Lewis to drive my M140i. The reason why it's going to be interesting is because he had an M140i, but it was completely stock and he was actually quite adamant on not modifying it. So I want to see if he'll notice a difference. He's never driven it before with these mods, so you're going to see his reaction. And honestly, I have no idea whether he's going to like it or think it's the same. So I think it's going to be a really interesting video. So just a quick note, Lewis was actually running the same tyres as me, the Michelin PS4s, and the same brake pads. So it's going to be a relatively fair comparison. The only difference being between the cars, his was a 5-door and mine is a 3-door, but that's the only real difference.
I'm Lewis, Reg's mate. Want to say a big shout out to Reg. Don't forget to subscribe to his channel, hit that like button. Going to be driving his modified M140i, and I believe the mods that Reg has done are the Bilstein dampers. It's lowered with the Motec stance and spacers. Got the Remus exhaust, and then the biggest difference to this car versus my standard 140 is this has got an LSD on it. It's wet today, so it's going to be interesting to see how this car feels. It's been a while since I've driven one of these because I've just moved to a new G21 330i. I owned my M140i for just over 3 years. Thought it was a great car, just outgrew it with the family and had to change to a touring. I think in the wet on the public roads, it's going to be quite tricky to really explore the limit of this car. I mean, I struggled with a standard one anyway, but it'd be nice to see how it feels. I think if we were going on the track, I would notice the difference, but I'm excited to drive it. Wow, this has been a while.
It has.
Back in an M140i.
It's a good place to be, isn't it?
It is, and I was just going to add some clarity to what I said about missing the M140i or the B58. I just missed the engine. Yeah, I missed the B58, but I couldn't afford the M340i, so I ended up with the 330i, and we're going to shoot a video on that soon, aren't we, Reg?
We are indeed.
Going to have a little bit of a road review on that and a track review, so I think that'd be really good. But yeah, if I'm honest, I don't miss my M140i for 95% of my driving, but I did miss it when I did a track day at Goodwood back in April.
I was going to say, we go over the mods. We've already spoken about them in the intro, but just to clarify, we've got the Bilstein B8 dampers, we've got the Motec stance IBAC springs, IBAC spacers, 12mm at the front, 15mm at the back. We've got the B&W underbody brace. You actually had that as well.
I did, yeah.
So that's good actually, because it still keeps it fair. What else have we got? We've got a strut brace on under the engine bay, but to be honest with you, I don't think that makes any difference. It just looks cool. And have I missed anything? Oh, Remus exhausts, which just adds to the sort of the sound, adds a little bit more drama. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Oh, braided lines.
Oh yeah, I forgot about them.
Yeah.
I didn't have any of that on my M140i, but I liked the underbody brace because it was a relatively cheap upgrade to the car that you could get from BMW. So you retained that OEM or that factory feel to it, and actually it did just tidy up the rear ever so slightly. So when you're trying to put the power down in a straight line, it felt less squirmy.
I'll tell you what was really obvious to me is when you're exiting a corner, the back end just felt so like wobbly and loose, and it didn't feel very connected, but the underbody brace tightened things up, so I felt like I could be smoother sort of exiting a corner. So
the M140i was my first rear-wheel drive car, and it does teach you how to drive, and it teaches you how to understand some of the dynamics of the cars as well, and I really enjoyed it.
It is interesting what you say about it being a little bit sort of floaty, but actually then coming alive on track, because yes, there are much more Focus hot hatches out there, you know, like the Meganes, the Focus RS.
Yeah.
They're a lot more focus on this car, but this strikes a good balance, I think, between road and track, you know?
Yeah. This has been said in nearly every, well, I'd like to say probably most YouTube videos on an M140i, or certainly on the forums. This isn't a hot hatch as such, it's more of a baby Grand Tourer.
Exactly.
But it is unique. This car is so unique because what other hatchback can you buy with a 3-litre straight six engine up front and being driven by the back wheels? Absolute madness in my book.
So Lewis, can you notice a difference in damping?
Yeah.
So,
instantly.
really?
So I remember my car just completely stock, wasn't adaptive, all passively set up, was really choppy, quite bouncy, whereas this one is much softer in terms of its ride. This is really nice.
Yeah.
This is actually on par with the G21 330, which is sat on adaptive.
Wow.
But I'm on 19-inch run flats, which are going to affect the ride comfort.
This is true, yeah. So obviously I've been driving this car for quite a long time with the B8s installed, and they have actually firmed up a little bit.
Cool.
But it still feels comfortable because obviously the rebound is so much better than the stock passive dampers.
Quite a tight corner here, just in comfort. So we just apply a bit of braking because it is wet. Just pick up that throttle, squeeze it round. Yeah, it feels good.
That feels planted, doesn't it?
It does actually. And I didn't think the diff would make a big difference on the public road with, you know, obviously it's a 60 mile an hour limit. But you can feel as you're just getting on the power, it doesn't seem to be wobbling around as much.
With each wheel's losing traction, that would throw the open diff off, whereas a limited slip diff is much more smoother, I think. Oh, I could feel it there.
Yeah, it hooked up nicely there. I was a bit rough on the,
no, that was good.
Power. Well, we're in sport mode. We're going to pull out this junction relatively hard and see what the LSD feels like. A bit slippery there, but it seems to get away better than my old car with its open diff. But it is wet today, as you can see, and probably here. This is where that twisty section comes up, isn't it?
Exactly.
It gets quite tight and narrow along here.
Oh, it feels lovely through there.
Yeah, it felt alright actually.
You can really feel the back end just sort of gripping and pulling you round.
It's nice, it's good fun to drive.
How are you finding the grip levels, Lewis?
Yeah, okay, it's greasy. It's greasy out. We've had a long period of dry weather and now it's raining or it's wet, so it's always going to be slippery on the road, isn't it? But the car's not doing anything I don't want it to do. Nice clear run up here. It's a little bit slippery. We've also got all the crap from the trees on the road as well.
Yeah.
But the car feels good. There's less body roll with your lowering springs. I'm just trying to give you a good idea of what are the differences between the standard setup and this setup. This car has got much more in it that I'm not pushing this to its absolute limit.
It's got a lot more to give, hasn't it?
It has, but I think we have to moderate this. It's wet, it's slippery, it's a public highway.
Yeah, we've got to keep it safe, haven't we?
Yeah, we've got a car park here, which pulling out of that in the past, it's difficult to see. So yeah, we just have to be respectful, I think. But yeah, it feels good. I like the dampers, it's really good. It's hard to comment really on this LSD in these conditions. I think the best place to experience an LSD is on the track, but I don't expect to drive your car on track, but I'd very much like to passenger with you when we go to Bedford.
Absolutely.
Now I took it easy there because there's quite a bit of mud on the road. Don't know whether that will come out on the camera. And I like this section, you can really straighten this up. The reason we're doing this, guys, is we've got a broken line here, so they are hazard lines, but we've got a good view of the road ahead. Oh, they're brave.
So considering how bad the conditions are, I think she's handling pretty well.
Yeah, she is.
Know? Obviously Lewis is doing a great job driving, but from where I'm sitting, it feels really good. Feels like there's lots of grip. It feels nice and flat as well. These dampers have got so much better rebound control than the stock passive dampers. The outcome of that is just more pliancy on the road, I think, and the tyre seems to be in contact with the road a lot more than it was in the passive setup. So if you're pushing it on a choppy road, do you ever remember the car getting a little bit bouncy and a little bit hairy? And that's not that's not a nice feeling, is it, when you're pushing on the public road?
No, it does settle much, much quicker.
All right, guys, what we're going to do is we are going to do a launch. There's no one behind us on a lovely bit of straight NSL road. So, yeah, we're going to see what happens, really.
So it's in Sport Plus,
okay,
which is fine. So get it to a stop. Hard on the brake. Yeah, launch control. Wheel spin. Wow, that didn't work very well, did it, Reg?
The traction control cut in nicely there, didn't it? Because the back end started to come out, didn't it?
It stepped out.
Yeah.
But yeah, the car reined it in.
Yeah. I would say just leave it in sport. All right, guys, we're going to do a launch again. No launch control, and we're just going to leave it in sport.
Yeah, much better.
Wow. That launched pretty well, didn't it?
It did, yeah. The traction control light didn't flicker, but I'm pretty sure it was working. You could just feel, it felt like it was just nipping away ever so slightly.
I think the reason why launch control doesn't work very well on these cars, especially in wet conditions, is when you're using launch control, you're actually spooling up the turbo. So you're building up a load of boost, and obviously when you release the brake pedal, you've got basically almost all of the boost happening right at the start, and I think that overwhelms the tyres. But actually what we did there was probably a better way, because you're sort of, the boost is building whilst you're rolling instead of coming in one big lump, if that makes sense. Right, guys, so Lewis is in the passenger seat now, so we're going to see if he can notice any difference. Like we said, you know, being a passenger to driving is very different, isn't it, Lewis?
Yeah, really different. Really different. I think this car hides its speed so well because it's got such a big, lazy engine up front.
Lazy?
Yeah, it's lazy because it's well, if it's lazy because you don't have to press the gas pedal to get the speed out of this car. Hold on, let me say that again. It's lazy because you don't have to go full throttle to get the real performance out of the car.
You can just use the torque.
Yeah, you can ride the torque. It's not like my car, which is a 2-litre 4-pot turbo, where you have to really work that engine. You know, Reg can get this car up to up to the speed limit very, very quickly without really trying.
Yeah.
Whereas the B48 has to work a bit more because it's a small, big turbocharged engine.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah. I wasn't slating the B58. It's a fantastic engine, probably one of the best.
Yeah.
Certainly in terms of the technology, the design. I would go as far as reliability, but then I never ran any different maps on mine or anything like that.
Well, I've not heard of any major problems with this engine. I mean, it loses a little bit of coolant, but
yeah.
Oh, look at it around there.
Yeah, that was nice.
Man, I love this car. I really do. Honestly, like, what else can you get, that's as good as this without having to spend more money?
Exactly. The only thing that I can think of from BMW that would be of interest to me would be the M140i.
Yeah, but that is a lot more money.
A lot more
isn't
money.
It?
A lot more money. Even the used ones are sitting around 40k from a dealer, a BMW dealer with low mileage. But I think this comes back to our modern day cars becoming too powerful for the roads, for the UK roads.
Well, this is it. I mean, BMW's M5, the F90, we're talking basically 580 horsepower, maybe 600. Don't quote me on that. But, you know, can you use all of that? Like, in England?
I don't think you can.
No, I mean you can. Of course you could use all of it, but it's simply a case of, well, if you're okay with losing your license, you know, if you don't care about your license and you've got money to spend, you know, on speeding fines and lawyers to bail you out of the courts, then yeah, go for it. Right.
These cars get to 70 very, very quickly without really putting much effort into using the throttle.
Oh, that feels good right there.
It does feel planted sat where I am.
It really does.
This is interesting actually. It feels slightly more comfortable sat here, probably because I'm not having to put the steering inputs in to kind of correct any any undulations in the road. But yeah, it feels good. Very close to the left here.
And that's, you know what, I was actually thinking exactly the same thing when I was in the passenger seat.
Oh really?
Yeah.
It's just that. It's just going from the right hand side of the car to the left, isn't it? It's weird. It is weird. So you can feel the back wheels spinning up slightly here, but it's not moving the car around. It's just saying we're losing a bit of traction, but actually it's getting us through. I know you've reduced the traction as well, haven't you?
Yep.
So you've settled it into a kind of halfway house with the electronics.
It feels good, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. When I first got my M140i, I found it really difficult to drive it at a relatively quick pace on the road, just because I was scared of it. But once I'd gone out on the track, got some instruction on the track, I really understood that actually the car had a lot more grip, and the pace you're going on the track you're never going to get to on the public road, or you should never get to it on the public road. I think the problem on the road is, like we've said, these are B roads, they're rough, they're unsettled, they're not in great condition or fantastic condition, so the car is quite unsettled here compared to a smooth track.
So if it feels this good on a British B road, how good is it going to feel on track, Lewis?
Yeah, it should be good. I'm looking forward to seeing it on track.
Okay guys, so we've just got back from Lewis driving my modified M140i, and I'm going to catch up with him and see what he thinks.
Great to be back behind the wheel of an M140i again. Like we've said in the car and some of the footage, they're great cars for the money.
Yeah.
That has made me realise how cool it was to own one for 3 years. But yeah, I really enjoyed driving this. It was really good. The dampers are a game changer, but we keep stressing that point, don't we?
We do.
And the LSD does feel good. When you drove and you give it a bit more power out of the corners, you could feel the car hooking up quite nicely.
Okay guys, so we're going to end the video there. Thanks for joining. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like and a comment if you're feeling friendly, and yeah, I'll see you again in the next one.
Cheers guys.